welcome everyone. Happy to have so many people on tonight, and really want to recognize Valerie Nelson, who really initiated this effort, and I'm excited that it's progressing as well as it is. So we have an opportunity to team up with the Harvard School of Design to begin an analysis of some of our issues and some of those possible solutions. And so the exciting thing about this is that we have an ability to tap into a wide range of disciplines that Harvard can bring to the table for us. And we're working on a two-phased approach. And the first phase is looking at a planning phase for this summer. But before I get to that, I want to just introduce some of the key players. So Professor Charles Waldheim is the director of the Office of Urbanization and the Future of the American City Initiative at Harvard. And his team have done a number of these projects, mostly in larger cities, both in the US and throughout the world, actually. And they were excited to hear about us when Valerie contacted them. They were quite excited to participate in a more regional effort with smaller communities. And so I think they were intrigued by the grassroots effort that Dick has been doing, and many of you have been participating in for a number of years, and being able to tap into the grassroots movement that is building here on Cape Ann. So there's an interdisciplinary team that Professor Waldheim is bringing to the table. And the effort is being administered through the Meeting House Foundation. And a memorandum of understanding is signed between Meeting House and Harvard to go forward with this, and sponsored locally here by the coalition, by the Cape Ann Climate Coalition. And then we have the participation of the four communities of Cape Ann. So obviously Gloucester, Manchester, Rockport, and Essex. And so it's designed to be a broad-based effort, reaching out to a large number of people, and both private sector and public, and trying to gather people's ideas on how we can best move forward. And so the study is designed to focus on four basic areas. First off is developing a baseline of what has been done to date. So what are the different studies that have been done in the different communities? What is the baseline information that we have available to us? And to basically assemble all of the information in one spot, rather than being dispersed and rather desperate. And then once we have that baseline information, is to focus on these three basic areas. Mitigation, that is, how can we get carbon out of our systems? How can we decarbonize our lifestyles? So that's the first area. Second area is adaptation. That is, how do we alter our built environment to be more resilient and adapt to the changes that are coming. And probably more importantly, and one area that I'm very intrigued with is how do we create our human systems to better mimic natural systems in order to be more in tune with those natural rhythms and not out of sync. We were just doing these brief conversations with the breakout groups that Larry was facilitating, and COVID has brought this to me front and center. So we're out of sync with the natural systems, and COVID, I think, is an example of getting out of sync. And so how can we build our human systems or environment to be more in tune with that natural system? And then finally, resilience, both socially, environmentally, and economically. How do we better prepare ourselves for the changes that will be coming and are here, and still be strong? And so the idea is to create both short-term and long-term actions. And we want to be bold with this initiative. We want to think large, think bold, think out of the box as we go through the study. So after the planning phase, which will take place this summer, the idea is then to do more in-depth studies. So the idea is this summer is being more of a listening effort as we gather the background information, as we talk to one another, as we tap into various stakeholders, identify some areas that we want to dive deeper. So the second phase then, once we've identified these areas of deeper dives, would be to undertake a more in-depth study of particular areas and to try to create action plans based on some agreed upon priorities. And these are just some examples on the screen right now. So for example, in the housing arena, how can we create more affordable housing that is net zero, that is not adding to the carbon footprint? What can we do in our transportation sector? What about our water, wastewater systems and how we manage our trash? And can we actually recover some resources from what we typically throw away, et cetera. You can read the other areas. These are, again, just examples of what we might take a deeper dive into once we've identified our areas of interest as we go forward. And so, again, the phasing of this, the summer is to develop that baseline inventory, have a number of conversations throughout Cape Ann, getting as many people as involved as possible, and then developing a more detailed scoping of what we want to do for that deeper dive in phase 2. So right now, Dick and others are heading up an impressive fundraising effort. So the first phase is a planning phase in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. If you are able to contribute to that, I know that Dick would gladly accept your check. We're getting close to our goal for that first phase. And then the second phase, larger price tag, and we'll be reaching out to private foundations as well as some public grants that are becoming available to help us fund this deeper dive as we go into the fall and into the winter. And at the latest, we expect that second phase to begin in January of 21 and be a year and a half long study as we do a more intense look at some specific areas and develop some roadmaps or action plans in these different areas. So that is a quick overview of the collaboration that we're forming with the Harvard design team. And I know, Valerie, you can add to that. And again, I really thank you for the connection you were able to make for us with Harvard. Do you want to say a few more words before we open up to questions?
Well, I was glad you brought up the adaptation and working with nature. I think that's important to all of us on the CACC. And then also we're, especially at this moment in time, very interested in making this work for people, keeping in mind justice and equity in all these measures in a green economy, that this work works for our natural environment and our community environment. One other thing I would just add is that is something to be explored here is the value and the viability of regional approaches. I think one of the problems with small communities is there isn't the capacity necessarily to do the kind of deep dive that you described here that Harvard will bring to the table. But if we join forces, are there a lot of opportunities across the 4 communities, whether it's in infrastructure or policies or fundraising efforts as well. So I think this is a innovative project in many ways, and we're really looking forward to the interdisciplinary research capacity of Harvard at helping us to envision the kind of future that we want here.
Yeah, I'll emphasize that regional approach, particularly as we enter an economic downturn here. It becomes even more critical for communities to be collaborating and sharing more. I'm certainly convinced from my day job, trying to manage a small town, that our future really is going to need to rely on more collaboration and more sharing of services. And so this is an opportunity to to share and to collaborate on a topic that will be impacting all of us. So Dick, did you want to talk a little bit about
Are there any, I neglected to ask, if people have questions, they could post them right now to the chat, and we could ask Greg and Valerie any questions.
So we're going to move on now to the questions. We've got one right here from Judith Black. Why isn't using less and zero population growth never part of our conversation? Just asking. Greg, do you want to respond to that?
Oh, I definitely think it can be. I don't think we want to, certainly at this early stage, we're not precluding any questions or any approaches. So I think that can be part of it and should be part of the conversation.
Great. How about the next one is describe how GSD has interfaced with local governments in the cities where they have worked.
So my impression is that, it is varied. Sometimes it's with a municipality that has seen the value in engaging researchers and students, and sometimes it's a local organization, and sometimes even developers. In our case, it's really the community working with them and with the municipalities in a cooperative conversation. And as Greg said, in our case, it would be the Meeting House Foundation that's actually signing the contract. But my impression on all the projects is that there's very much a strong community outreach in their efforts.
Next question would be, when is the first phase scheduled to begin? And I can say that mid-July we'll be starting the 2-month planning phase. And then will there be a way to be involved with the study team? So, Greg, do you want to answer that?
I'm sorry, I was actually reading other questions.
Will there be a way to be involved with the study team in the planning process?
Well, absolutely. Either directly and in helping with the planning of things, or just participating in some of the discussions and forums that will be organized. We're looking for input. If people have ideas and want to send them along just in an email, that's certainly fine, is one way. Or if you want to participate in some of the forums that will be organized, or if you want to get more involved and be part of the planning team, that would be welcomed as well.
If you are inspired to donate, we're asking for small contributions of any size, and we have donations now from 100 up to 1,000, and we're up to we've got about 30 people, and we're up to 17,000. Our goal is 25. Got another couple weeks to go, and we've already begun the work of building the baseline with volunteers, and Harvard is starting already. They're so confident we're going to be moving ahead. So please email me if you have a pledge right now to dick.prouty@gmail.com, dick.prouty@gmail, what that pledge is, and I will email you a donation form for you to submit a check.